give a minute or so for our folks who are joining us. So I've got music on the background. Um, anyway, this is Cyber Power of Tigray from the West Coast, live from Portland, Oregon. We have Abby joining us today, who is one of our Tagaro diaspora. Um, let's see. I met Abby in our last protest in Portland. Actually, we had a great discussion, and what a small world it is for Tagaro. That I happen to know also some of her family member. I'm not going to get detailed, but it was very small that I had an opportunity to hear you giving like a wonderful speech at the rally in Portland. And I approached you and I said, hey, I need to talk to you. And you're like, sure. And we just kicked it off. And then that evening I found out that, I actually been in communicating with one of your family member, which you already know who that is. And so, welcome to Cyber Power of Tigray. So if you don't mind, could you please tell them your name and what you do and what made you, to just be so simple with your fellow Tagaros to join us and to be able to discuss the crisis and the attack on Tigray and on Tagar people.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, that was a great introduction. Thank you. My name is Abby Mohoni. I am currently in Portland, Oregon, and I am a public health student as well as a social media marketing consultant and blogger. A little bit about what I've been doing to facilitate, to help the movement is working on marketing, social media, as well, some film production efforts, and just general individual activism as well, setting out Zoom meetings with friends who are not necessarily familiar with Tigray or Ethiopian history, just general Americans, if you will. So I'm really happy to be here. Like you said, we had a great, really fruitful conversation at the last protest. So I'm really grateful for this space and this platform, and hope to, serve my people the best way that I can.
Thank you. And I think in our conversation last time, you told me that you had recently visited Ethiopia and Tigray, of course. I would love to, while the audience are trickling in to join us here, I would love for you to share to the audience how you found it when you visited, because I know you were born here, but your heart is still there, just like everyone else, like many young Tagaro, which is actually the discussion that we started here on Cyber Power of Tigray, English broadcasting, is that to cater and to ensure young people like you, who by no fault of their own may not speak Tigrinya, but it doesn't mean they're not proud of Tigray and the Tigray people, because we are one, and the unity, you've seen it.
تزارب تقرنيا EU.
Go ahead.
I can greet.
Good job. No, hey, I like that. كمل لهم دك عدم ما بلوك.
دحاني سدرا سلام بتسب. Yeah, I can understand a lot more than I can speak. But to your point, to your question, yeah, so I was fortunate enough to go to Tigray twice in 2019. And I'm going to try not to be emotional about it, because it was the most just beautiful experience to see how thriving Mekelle was, in my view. But also just to be around all of the beauty of our people in a really peaceful state. It was just, it was a transformational trip, and actually it changed me. I'm an artist at heart. I put off going to school. I kind of went, I was in school, but I put off following the conventional ladder. But it wasn't until I recently went back home and I was like, okay, I need to dedicate my time to public health, because I feel like this is where I can serve the best. So that was part of my plans when I got back home, but also a part of that with the Tagaro Professional Network. We were planning a really great excursion and endeavor to go back to Tigray and facilitate a diaspora homecoming trip, if you will. So we had a lot of plans in the works. We were planning all throughout 2019, 2020, and we had to build schools and to just build up Tigray like as much as we possibly could. And then obviously the onset of, we know tensions were escalating, but the onset of this war was just really devastating because now we're at such a dire point where it's like the opposite. We have to rebuild back everything. So a little bit of background to me, that's where my heart's at. I always had plans to go back to Tigray and to live there, to build a family there, and to, my first investments, I plan to be there. So devastating on all levels, but obviously not as bad as our friends and family back there who are enduring the worst.
Thank you. That was a beautiful introduction. I'm gonna try to keep it away as much as I can from being too emotional, too sensitive. I know we talked, you and I have talked about this. It's hard. It's hard when we all hear about it and see about it, that innocent people are displaced all over Tigray to neighboring countries, children who are in immediate needs of humanitarian aid, Eritrean refugees, over 100,000, have no access to the international community to help them survive. I mean, there's so many things happening, but coming back before we go that far, 2019, that was like such a recent, my first visit actually was in 1999, and I've gone back and forth, and I have seen the first visit to Ethiopia actually in 1999 for me I was embarrassed because Addis Ababa was it's like I've never seen like a city that is like in crappy spot. I mean, it's just I thought my imagination was from Cali just going to Addis. Like I was like, I'm going to Addis because everybody talks about Addis. I thought it was like beautiful city and all clean and like high buildings and whatnot. And I was like, it was just embarrassing for me to be honest with you. But the culture, the people throughout, I was like, this is wonderful. And then every time I went back, I just saw how well it was developed. There was negativity, tension and stuff, which you and I actually talked about before outside this discussion, how people have gone, sometimes the tension that is generated creates so much of divisiveness among us. But now we have designated country in Ethiopia. We have the crisis in Tigray, but it's not just in Tigray that Ethiopia is falling apart. Do you have a general sense of what's happening in Ethiopia, obviously, and in Tigray, and how that's going to impact for Ethiopia?
Sorry. I just have to back up a little bit. So the general sense in Ethiopia, in Tigray, I know that it's very hardened at this point because when onset of declarations of war, we saw a lot of celebrating from, all constituents. So it's very worrisome at this point for us, especially when we have these elders in our community, our parents, our grandparents who have been through, it's just unbearable. Like older generations, this is their third war. So I don't blame them at all for having what they want to happen. Some have very strong feelings of succession to get out of the country. Although logistically that would be like a longer term thing. That's going to be like 5 to 10 years regardless, just based off of the way the Constitution is set up as I know it. But can't really blame them at this point, anybody, for wanting to have peace and safety and security in their indigenous lands. I think that's the fight of all indigenous people, right? To have the ability to practice your language, your traditions, your customs, without fear of ambush.
Right, and the feeling of rejected from the very people the Tigray people who fought in every war to keep Ethiopia intact and together. Now we've seen it being attacked from all corners. But the worst aspect of it, it's happening in Tigray from various part of the country came into Tigray to eliminate an entire population. I mean, literally, I don't want to like sound like everyone in Tigray is dead right now, but the agenda between the Eritrean troops, government of Eritrea, the dictator, and the Ethiopian dictator who failed to uphold the constitution, kind of what you're talking about, instead of holding an election, which we've seen elections happen everywhere around the world in due time, including Uganda just had like a few days ago. But he knew that politically he couldn't win election. So he used that excuse, the pandemic COVID-19, to delay that. And the Tigray people, right, the Tigray people hold up their election, and in return what they got is attack. And to me, like in a Western society, something like that, like, I mean, you and I have every right to free speech, to elect our leaders that we choose so in our home state.
Certain liberties, that we can rely on because of our, institutions being upheld to a certain point. And even now, like, we're seeing an attack on our most basic institutions. The Constitution of this country, like, peaceful protest is allowed, and that's why we've been successful in raising our voices thus far. And there's many types of privilege out there. There's the privilege of, the storming of the Capitol, right? Like, certain privileges can do that, but I don't want to draw any more disheartened themes into our people. I just want to enliven them and empower them, and to make sure that they know that as long as you're in this country, you do have certain things available to you, and we all have a part to play in upholding those democratic institutions and human rights, basically. So in any way that I can facilitate that, I will be a part of that. And Tigray, it's my heart. Like, I love my family. I love my friends. This needs to be on the agenda of Joe Biden, absolutely, because I don't know if we want to get into the macro implications, but just from a public health, I'm a public health student, I'm not an expert, but just from a public health perspective, I quote this a lot, the U.S. Senior Study Group on Peace and Security in the Red Sea Arena, and I quote, sorry, I'm in my car right now because some family members are working inside, so excuse the noise if there is some overlap. Okay, so in quotes, as we cautioned in the study group's final report and recommendations released on October 29th, the fragmentation of Ethiopia would be the largest state collapse in modern history. Ethiopia is 5 times the size of pre-war Syria by population, and its breakdown would lead to mass inter-ethnic and inter-religious conflict, a dangerous vulnerability to exploitation by extremists, an acceleration of illicit trafficking, including of arms, and a humanitarian and security crisis at the crossroads of Africa and the Middle East on a scale that would overshadow any existing conflict in the region, including Yemen. As Ethiopia is currently the leading troop contributing country to the United Nations and the African Union peacekeeping missions in Sudan, South Sudan, and Somalia, its collapse would be significantly impact the efforts by both to mitigate and resolve other conflicts in the Horn of Africa. So drawing on these macro implications, the destabilization of the Horn of Africa, and approaching that point of no return, I really just want the world and American, if they can't relate to on a personal level, just the macro implications. Can we handle the impact of mass influx of refugees? Can we handle the impact of the ecological impacts? Are we equipped to meet the 2030 year standards of the UN for reaching all these goalposts? So it's just a huge concern, and on the individual level, people are dying. They're being hacked to death. Like, if this doesn't matter to people, what are we doing? Who are we as people? What is humanity?
And that's often the question. And when I'm upset, I appreciate people, their perspective, but I keep saying this and I keep talking about Ethiopians on the diaspora and Ethiopians at home. It was welcome news for me to hear that just a few days ago, the Oromo, which makes up the large population in Ethiopia, actually raised enough money to buy uh, food and went to Mekelle and distributed to Tigray people. And one of the guy who was participant from the Oromia region say, look, I understand, that we have people in Oromia that are going hungry also, that we have our own problem in Oromia, but as an Oromo, I care about the people of Tigray because they are at worst as we speak. And so you have that kind of heart. And honestly,
That.
and that's why can't we see? So for those who are getting upset with me, like I point out with Amhara, I'm calling out on the Amharas because they've been the instigators. They meaning collectively the Amhara militia, the Amhara elite, however we want to categorize them. Not you, but I'm just saying we, meaning as those of us who are upset about it.
I hear you.
Where are they? Why aren't they coming as just humanity, like from human perspective? The Oromos don't even have borders with Tigray. But if they can cross hundreds of miles to just do the right thing, which is to help, and Eritreans, by the way, I'm going to have a young man tonight that's going to go on this show. He just got back from Tigray. Is talking how the Eritrean soldiers in Tigray saying, we don't want to kill you, but we are ordered to do so. We don't want to loot your city, but we don't want so. But we have an omission.
Can we expand on that a little bit too?
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
About war and the absolute just horrific circumstances it brings on human beings. Like, there's young boys who they have no choice. They have to fight against their own people. They are the sheer numbers of troops that are invading this small region. There's no justification. There is no law enforcement operation that takes let me just be conservative with this estimate. Let's say 250,000 Eritrean troops. Let's say there's, we know there's militias involved. We have to put that at 300,000 plus, just in Mekelle alone. There's other, there's so much happening, but I just keep thinking of my younger cousins, my boy cousins, and the serial rape that's going on, the worst possible things that are happening to humanity. And it just sickens me that people have a choice to care about it or not, if it makes enough headlines. And all of Africa is hurting. If we want to put it on the macro scale, Nigeria and SARS, Uganda, what you just mentioned. I believe there was Bobby, a popular artist, who had to call attention to this, and they were chasing him out of his home. Africa's hurting right now, definitely, and we need to be with our people, our indigenous folk, and build community. There's a lot of hurt,
and the displacement, and now the ethnic targets is another sad story that's continuously happening. The Ethiopian dictator, who again is miscalculated the war that he declared on the Tigray people, is now unable to defeat the fight on the battleground. The Tigray leadership we knew that leads the Tigray Defense Forces left Mekelle to avoid massacre of 500,000 people. His army, including the Eritreans, combined entered to Tigray over 500,000. Most of them
numbers are crazy. It's almost embarrassing. If it wasn't so tragic, it would be laughable, because you have how many troops, how many military coming in for a population so small, basically the smallest demographic within, Ethiopia, the smallest population, and we don't even know those numbers because I believe the last census was 2007. Like, even in and of itself, how do you expect to facilitate democracy if you don't even have a right count on the population? Like, that just seems like that's just like number one. You have to know who's in the country, who are you representing on a political, socio-political scale, right? So that's another thing. It's so convoluted, but yeah, our
dictators don't think that way.
Starved to death right now. That's what exactly. People understand. Like, our people are literally being starved to death. There's so many people who have not heard from their families at all. I think of my auntie in Adigrat, who is like she's a nurse, but also like a top position at one of the hospitals, and I've not been able to get a hold of her. Thinking about how in Mekelle, all across the region of Tigray, they don't have gloves. They don't have the basic necessities to care for people. Thinking about doing like amputations and all of these different things that they have to perform without basic anesthesia or medicine. And our monuments are being looted. Factories are being looted. Everything, the universities, small businesses, homes, the ethnic profiling outside of Tigray. So yeah, there's a lot to cover.
And the guest that I'm gonna have tonight, actually, some of the stuff that you describe is what he's been witnessing. We got to try to avoid from giving a specific location to avoid retaliation, obviously, for family members back home. But some of the story that's coming out, even Eritreans in the diaspora who have family within the military in Tigray right now, the Eritrean military are taking photos of what's happening. They are rounding up like villagers, young men from villages throughout Tigray, whenever the Eritreans are able to loot, like the pharmaceutical factory, for example, in Adigrat, was like looted, and those who were told to come and load up the Eritrean vehicles, that when they finished loading, they took them outside the city and then they massacred them all. And this is the kind of thing that we've seen, but at the same time, they're not able to win the battlefield fight, which is when you're at war, there's like collateral damage, but this is not collateral damage. This is like a direct attack on ethnicity, which is kind of what you talked about. So, how do we overcome the younger generation? How are we supposed to come together to understand the complicity of politics, but at the same time to live side by side, while regions in Ethiopia now have to figure out for self-determination and whatever else that comes. I gave up hope to talk about Ethiopia. I'm done, but I don't want to. That's my personal opinion. But from your perspective, how are we supposed to? Even the diasporas from certain ethnic group, they're hardcore. They're still bashing and talking that, calling us junto. I mean, it's an insult, basically, someone who betrays their country, their people, which actually is Abiy Ahmed and Isaias, and the followers are the one betraying their country as we speak.
Thank you for that. I hear you. I definitely hear you, and I validate your experience, your lived experience, right? Like, how you feel is valid. How anybody feels is valid. I have to be a little bit careful speaking from the diasporic perspective. But what I do know is that we need a lot of empathy in order to heal. We need to be able to really revolutionize the theory of understanding, revolutionize what it means to be ourselves, our identity in first generation, because we have a lot of different obstacles, I guess, being first generation than our parents did, directly immigrating. So I'm first generation, right? So I've lived in a different world. But I don't think that we have like a lot of obstacles in terms of where we stand. Like what we want is our people to be safe, right? Like we are fighting for that first and foremost. What we need to be doing is using our voice to speak for our family members that can't speak for themselves, in doing so in a wise way. That doesn't mean that we have all the answers. It doesn't mean that we're the perfect advocates, but we need to use our privileges wisely and be able to speak for them, to make this come to a halt. So I think there's a lot of different ways that people can be involved. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have a certain title or anything, but just standing up for human rights. Our friends and families, they need us right now. So as long as we continue on, we participate in our social media, Twitter campaigns, we'll be fine. We participate in holding our elected leaders accountable. We will make progress, making sure that we understand the ICC and the R2P, what they can actually do, managing our expectations of that. I think that will serve us really well. Understanding the global perspective of the genocides happening worldwide. Why nobody is speaking out about Yemen, why nobody is speaking out about Myanmar, the different genocides that are taking place. We can learn a lot from them. We can learn a lot from those movements about human rights, because we're at a pivotal time to serve a lot of people. There's a lot of atrocity going on, especially in Tigray.
And I think, to your point, what we're doing in social media, what we're doing airing stories like we're discussing about right now, communicating with one another. I think I am so humbled to meet so many Tagaru and supporter of Tigray that are rising up and saying, look, this is wrong. We can't continue. I mean, folks, like this is like ongoing for 2.5 months. People are literally dying of basic
starving to death. Like I can't even comprehend, and that's why I don't want to seem too like business formal. I don't even know how I'm coming off right now, but what is circling through my mind every single day is like children being starved to death, not having access to anything. This is day 73, 74, 70 plus. So anybody watching this, whether you identify as Habesha, Ethiopian, American, Turkish, you're from Brazil, you wherever you are in the world, like this matters. This is such an ancient legacy. These are such kind, loving people that do not deserve this at all. And if we are ever to uphold the notion never again from the Holocaust in the Nazi Germany, it takes collective humanity to be able to, it's not just on select individuals from the UN to uphold this. We as a collective humanity have to say, this is wrong across the board. This disgrace against human rights and these atrocities that are taking place, we're not going to stand for it anywhere, because we understand, as Martin Luther King Jr. said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And we have to take heed, because that's the truth. It is the truth.
And of course sadly the massacre continues, which shifts. I want to shift the subject now real quick to what's happening to Ethiopia. For example, I just read yesterday that the European Union just suspended 107 million worth of US dollar aids that Ethiopia would have received because of the war, which goes back to what you were talking about earlier, whether or not we are making a difference in the diaspora. And I want our listeners to know that yes, we are. And we actually have a campaign going on right now. Twitter campaign started today. So Young Tagaru, Tigray lovers, Tigray followers who care about humanity, who's speaking
Yes,
about justice. Yep. I mean, tweet. Go on Twitter,
join
please.
in the Twitter campaigns. That's where you will be heard. That's where you will be heard. And we have a lot of different metrics to figure that out in terms of marketing, whether it be Google Analytics or there's so many things that we can measure our campaigns, but just stay united and build community within
Absolutely.
ourselves. That's what I like really want to hone in. Like, now is not the time to like gatekeep any information. If there's any information from like an elder perspective that you can trickle down onto the younger folks, do that now. Do that now. Please make sure that our youth have a full picture, even if it's hard. Because in reality, a lot of our family members, a lot of they're still dealing with the past things, and they've excelled. Like, I'm so proud of them. They've excelled like within this crazy circumstance of America and meritocracy, and they've navigated it all as immigrants. But there is a really, really heavy plight on our elders to go through this trauma again. So any information you can extract out of our elders, now is the time to do it. It's so important to understand what has happened in the past. And we have a great idea now. It's 2 months, we've been faced with it. So we know. But just for anybody tuning in, even younger generations, there's a way to give correct information to younger kids. This is where we come from, so on and so forth. Yeah, and I just want to be a part of the solution. I want to make that clear. I want to be a part of what will help.
And I think, thank you. I think what's really amazing when you touch base about the our generation, the older generation, is that what I've seen that I've never seen in my lifetime is a unity and the willingness from every Tagaru, young and old and whatever age that I spoke with. They all have the same passion. They just want peace. Mm-hmm. They want Tigray to be left alone. Tagarus are sick and tired of war. And I will say this, I am getting a lot more Eritreans reaching out, believe it or not. They're messaging me. They're saying, hey.
You know what's funny? I'm going to say this real quick. So I was in a clubhouse. It's this new app. I was on it maybe like 3 times in my whole life. But we had this conversation about just, I guess it was like dating or something like that. But they were saying like the hierarchy, there was women speaking, and they were saying the hierarchy of like dating, there's this unspoken hierarchy for Tigrayan women specifically. And it's like people in Tigray, like, they're going through all these categories, and then they were saying next Eritrean. And like, I found that very interesting, because what you're saying is there's a lot of contention, but also there's a lot of culture that is shared. Everybody wants their family to have the shared sense of culture. And there's this, I guess, this notion that says the more that you have in common with someone, the better off your marriage will be. So like Eritreans speak our language, Tigrinya, similar customs, similar history. So I feel like it's sort of taboo in a sense, but it's also like this unspoken thing. Well, if you're not gonna date Tigray, then the next one down the line should be Eritrea. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I just find that so funny. Also, like, I don't know.
I did not see that coming, but I'm gonna say, I think it's a great. I've never even thought about it until you just said it. Oh my God!
I'm not saying anything, but
I'm all intense trying to figure out, like, okay, where is this going? But actually, that is like that's 100%. That is 100%. So for Tagaro, I know in this show I have unleashed my.
I'm sorry, I just took a little bit left.
That's okay. No. I need to laugh. I mean, I took this out just the other day. I feel
like that's the paradox, right? It's like there's this. Like,
I love it. No. I love it. I love it. Wow. So I did not think that, but I think we're gonna have to stop it right there, because I'm worried that if we cross over too much to the other aisle, we've been getting like the short end of the stick. And I know
take it for what you will. So for some people it'll make sense, and for other people like, what? Like, I know, yeah, there's even
no,
people
you got me
like,
cracking
why are
up.
you saying that?
Yeah,
You know?
I think it's a
I
really
mean, but I just wanted to point it out. Like, there's whatever. You
I,
can take it for what it is. But wherever we can do that bridge building in an authentic way, I want to be a part of. Wherever I can, you know, I don't want to see I don't want to see any more division where it's not needed. You know, I'm more so like finding solutions through our history, and like really listening to people like yourself, and anybody. So
thank you. Well, so ready for this next one then? It kind of goes line in line with that. So I some of the young actually Tagaro and Eritreans, they actually have told me that if there's ways and means they can go back to Tigray and fight, they will. But
okay,
then what's really interesting is in talking to them, um, some of these young people, like they are either just recent college graduate or
there's many.
they're
Yeah.
in school. And what they're telling me is, yeah, they're telling me like, I mean, literally like they're like young, like to be lawyers, young to be doctors, young to be like, you know, nurses and whatnot working. I mean, very highly talented, highly educated. And they're
What
saying,
I will
hey,
say to what I will say to that is, you know, part of it is the fact that, you know, where Tigray is positioned um, in a geopolitical space, right? We know there's this geopolitical shift happening in general in the world. But the reason why it's very strategic, right? That's why our people have never had peace, like, period. It's a very strategic place. So if I just really like know yourself. Know yourself. Like, where can you help out the most? Like, what are your skills? If you're a lawyer, then be an international advocate. Like, figure out the best way that you can help your people and just humanity surrounding that area. Like, start from there. Um, you don't have to necessarily be a soldier. Figure out what is the most strategic way that you can help the force. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're brute force, even though that is needed right now, I believe. But just be very, just know yourself, know who you are, and know your gifts from God. Like, really trust on God, and like, what is your path? You know, that's how I believe too. I rely on God. I rely on my faith, and I let him guide me where I'm supposed to go. So if it feels good, if I like, you know, I have a closer relationship with God, so I know what to do and what not to do. But yeah, so that's a personal decision.
so
But
with the so what's happening, I think you explained it beautifully, is I would add to what you say, trusting in God. I say to people like trust in God, lock your car, trust in God, lock your car. Um,
wear a
which
seatbelt, you know, I mean, like,
that's right, that's right. But what's really nice is I think you describe it nicely. So I'll just say like briefly is and talking to them, when I explain to them, I say, hey, you know, right now Tigray is not in need of military personnel. The 500,000 plus that showed up to Tigray have not actually took over more than like 5% of Tigray, like as a
what we
land.
need is people in tech. I'm gonna just say, I'm gonna
Yeah.
just say.
And so
So
these people all of a
I
sudden
hate to
now,
say this live because there's creepers, but like, you need to be in tech. You need
yeah,
to be programming. You need to
yep.
understand the algorithms. You need to understand exactly the platforms in Silicon Valley that really control the whole global psychology, right? So like, we look at Facebook 3 weeks before. This is really important. 3 weeks before the war was declared, Tristan Harris, former Google design ethicist, uh, insider tech from Silicon Valley, stated, you know, there's signs of genocide happening in Ethiopia. He spoke on this on the Joe Rogan podcast. Please search it. Tristan Harris, Joe Rogan podcast. He's spoken about this extensively, and he is the president of the Humane Center for uh, Technology. But what he's saying is like, you have Facebook, right, who goes into Ethiopia or different countries like India or whatever, and they make these deals with these telecommunications companies. And the issue with that is there's only one telecommunications company within Ethiopia, right? Like we have AT&T, Verizon out here, we have multiple ones, and we don't realize how much of a privilege that is. But when you have a monopoly on one telecommunications company, that's the reason why our calls are surveilled, why we can't get all of the information accurately. Anyway, so just to bring it back to the point, Facebook made deal with in Ethiopia, which is a program called Free Basics. Free Basic basically is the pre-download of Facebook app in any smartphone distributed in Ethiopia in its entirety. So basically, Facebook functions as the internet for people. It's free to access Facebook, but it costs money to access the internet. And why this is so important is because, it's a relatively poor population. If they get if anybody has hands on a smartphone, it'll come with it. But Facebook is it's not a free information environment. It has algorithms. And this will be a whole other discussion of where that really gets dangerous. But what people need to understand is, number one, it's not a free information environment. Facebook has very structured algorithms. And two, there's only one language that caters to Facebook right now, which is Amharic. So there's a lot of marginalized folks who don't have a voice on the platform. And this is people from experts, Tristan Harris, the creators of Instagram, Google, they're backing this. They're saying this is problematic. These institutions, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all of these things that were initiated, even Seattle, initiated in Silicon Valley, most of the programmers are white males, right? There's not a lot of diversity. There's not a lot of problem solving around what happens when we go into a country that has totally different values, totally different language, totally different culture, different government. How can the government manipulate those things to feed propaganda, so on and so forth? So they've been warning for a while that this is tech outsiders have been warning for a while. So just encourage people to check out Tristan Harris as well.
So I'm sure that, that is great information. I don't disagree with any of the information that you're sharing with the audience. I am going to keep my mindset where I'm going to say, we're going to exactly what you share. We're going to make the state of Tigray. It's going to become one of the amazing place and planet that a lot of these young people that I've been talking with.
Trust me, I'm right there.
So that's what they're telling me.
Piece of property, that's where I will be. Trust me.
So rebuild Tigray. So I want the audience to understand that the crisis, which I want to touch bases in a couple minutes here, is that we have just in Mekelle alone, we have over 700 women, young girls, pregnant women have been raped. It is violent. In Aksum, we had over 750 people from one church massacred. We have one of the well-known historical churches called Debre Damo was bombed just in the last few days. I mean, the list goes on and on. But I want to stay on that topic for a second, actually. So a lot of these young Tagaru, what now they are processing and realizing is that you don't have to be fighting on the battleground to help Tigray. So that's the kind of thing that I've been kind of, I think you're way ahead of me. So you already explained everything. But the thing that I would add to is that when I talk with them, I'm like, look, yes, I would love to do the same thing. Trust me, I'm emotional, I'm hurt, I'm angry, I'm all of those things. But what I'm doing is I'm using that energy wisely. I am, I'm not going to be depressed. I refuse to be defeated by evil. So instead,
But it's okay to process your emotions at the same time. Would you agree?
Right.
You know,
100%.
you have one person where you're like, you can let it all out and just be like, oh my God, this is what I'm feeling. Because that we need to normalize that too. You know, this is a lot. People haven't heard from their families in so long. Like there's so much. We need to have that space, you know?
2.5 months. I mean, imagine for 2.5 months, many of us have not heard anything from our family members. And that's the unknown aspect of it. But what's beautiful at the same time is that we're going to get it through. We're going to make it because for Tigray, this is not the first time it's been tested. We've gone through this before. What's sad this time around, though, is Tigray leadership, Tigray people lost over 60,000 young men and women to bring democracy, to put this guy in power who's turned his back on them. That's a sad reality. But we cannot dwell on that and say what if and what if not. So
the only thing that should give us hope right now is God's plan. You know, if you have faith, hold on to that because God's calendar is so much more articulate than we could ever imagine. And that's so easy for me to say in diaspora safe, fighting from this perspective. But I just have to instill that integrity in our people too, that morale, that faith. That God is with us at all times. He never leaves. God is always with us. And just know that anything that you're doing, it makes God smile. It makes God smile so much. The fact that you're speaking out for your family, and I'm just going to reiterate something that I heard Maaza say from Humans of Tigray Live. Like, it's not about our individual safety. It's about our collective existence. It really is at this point. And I just hope that we can lean on each other in that. It's our collective existence. So let's find more ways to build community. Let's find more ways to be closer. Let's find more ways to figure out what are the best ways that we can combat this evil. Because right now we're David and Goliath. Like we really are. We are that small shepherd. We have this pebble and we're slinging it back. So let's figure out the right pain point that just, you know what I mean?
Yep. We have slightly delay on audio for you, but I think I pretty much heard the point that you've been making. We definitely are having a little bit delay on your sound system, and then sometimes it's freezing up on you. But I think
my apologies. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. It's you coming through fine. It's just there's occasionally it frees up your. But I think having faith. It's like I feel like it's a wonderful reminder and therapy for those in the diaspora who are doing so much to stand against genocide in Tigray, to fight the injustice abroad. And I think while it is 2.5 months seems like long time, which it is long time, while many people also feel like helpless and hopeless, I think we are doing tremendously good work to end this violence once and for all. We know that there are other actors now involved in this crisis. We can talk about the Roma region, the Beishangul region. Now they have Sudanese border issue. But I think with our diaspora, what I want to do, hopefully we can get your audio back a little bit connectivity wise. But what I want to say to the young diaspora is just listen to what Abi is saying. Have faith. Don't give up. Be strong. And those of you who are eager to go back, yes, we all will go back to rebuild Tigray. Tigray is going to need us, not just for 1 month, not just for 1 year, not just for 10 years, for many, many years to come. We are going to go back. We are going to rebuild Tigray far beyond than it was. And I guarantee it, many Eritreans in the diaspora are also humble to go back and help rebuild Tigray because they've been embarrassed by the action. There you go.
Are we here?
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, there.
Continue
Yeah,
on.
there.
You're talking about Eritreans and the diaspora, everything.
Yeah, so I would just going off of what you say, to have faith and to not lose sight of, like, what we're doing, the Twitter campaign, the networking with not just Tagar, but expanding our network with our fellow Eritreans and the Oromo who are
Right.
actually coming forward to help us. Is that, I mean, this, I've never, actually, to be honest with you, I never thought that the Oromos will go to the extent to lend hands to Tagaro. So to me, there's hope. There's hope,
Can
really,
I say
that,
something also?
oh
You just
yeah.
reminded me. Like when I went to I'm talking about my last recent trip. I've been in Oromo regions. I've been in Amhara regions. I don't want to get too specific, but I broke bread with the people. Like nobody can tell me the rural people, in those areas are not beautiful people, and they don't have any power to say what happens or what doesn't. They have no power to say, I wish my family was not killed right now. But all I know is the beauty of those people that took me in and like did not give any. They don't care where I come from. They're not asking me. They're not profiling me. So that's what I try to keep in my heart too. I'm not speaking about anybody's experience, but I'm just trying to like keep the humanity alive in our efforts, right? Because I don't know, like this is just something that you said like really sparked that to me. Like I've broke bread with different Oromo communities, and even in Lalibela. Not to say that I'm best friends with everybody, but um, yeah, there's a lot of potential. I will say there's a lot of people who have been personally reaching out to me. They're like, oh my god, like I don't know how to even go about this. Mind you, they're in the country of state-sponsored violence day to day. Um, um, I'm hearing a lot of reports of people who do want to help and be in solidarity with Tigrayans, but there's not really a community for that. I feel like in the diaspora, but it's really ironic because we have the opportunity to build that, to facilitate that. So I just hope that we continue on that path, but also not deter anybody else's anybody else's speech. Like I am here for my family, I'm here for my friends, I'm here for humanity. Like I hope that people know that. Like I love my family, I love my friends. Like I don't want this to be happening to anybody.
So we're still having a pretty major audio issue, unfortunately. We're gonna see if we can reconnect in a little bit. It's completely now freezing you up.
Oh no!
And okay, folks. So we're gonna apologize for the little bit delays that we're having, but we're having a great discussion on how to bring together the Tagars and the diaspora and how we're going to rebuild Tigray. There you go. You're back.
I'm so sorry. Did you guys hear anything that I said before?
Yeah, I heard you. It was just it kept freezing to your face, and
Tigray. Continue on. I'm sorry.
that's okay. That's okay.
That's what I want to hear. Please.
And it was great discussion. So I was just going off of what you were pointing out, that the unity. I think I I'm hopeful that a lot of the young Tagaru who are already like ready to go back to rebuild Tigray, I have no doubt that is, we are ready. For those,
100%. When the time comes, we're ready. We're going back. 100%.
That's right. That's right. And so, and thank you to Sudan, obviously, who is every time Tigray is in crisis, every time Tagars are in needs of help, Sudan has always opened its door. So let's keep in mind also we have a great neighbor, even internally, when we have this much of like divisiveness, this much of division. I'm pleased to hear that a lot of your friends are reaching out to you. I think for me, my struggle continuously is that all the Amhara friends that I thought they were good friends to me, not only did they not reach out to me, but they actually were bashing about Tigray and my people behind my back until I found out from some of our mutual friends, which I have decided to defriend each and every one of them
See,
because
there's that too. That's what makes me so angry, because you're not alone in that. A lot of people have heard the same things, like their coworkers, not even just saying anything. Just everybody knows it's yeah. I'm so sorry. Like
that's So that's for me, I can no longer like live pretending that somehow, yes, I think what's sad is that what you mentioned earlier, like I've been in Gondar, I've been in Lalibela, I've been throughout Ethiopia and the Oromia region. Yes, I've never, felt like outside the norm. And that's kind of what, to be honest with you, how the political geopolitic in Ethiopia is hijacked, is that the majority of the population in Ethiopia have nothing to do with the war. They have no idea even what's happening. And you have
rural populations. Like this
yep.
is the sickening part of it. It's rural people who it's like they need a framework in a country. They need the stepping stone. They need that. Like it just makes me so angry that it's farmers, it's poor people that are bearing the brunt of the war, and then they're expected to fight in the war. They're expected to just run to the borders of Sudan, just let all of their goats, all of their cattle, all of their farm necessities be completely slaughtered. Like, I hate that. I hate that, especially going back to Mohoni, being blessed by farmers one by one, like receiving so much love from them and really understanding them. And just the church, like everything, it's really traumatic. Like I can't really explain the love of the people and just how beautiful people of Tigray are. It's really disheartening. I can't allow myself to like fully understand. Like it's just, they're being slaughtered. It's an extermination plot, and we need to continue.
I think to see this many young Tagaro rising up. Alua Solomon was on the show earlier speaking in Tigrinya, and he was talking about how we can no longer look back. We can no longer ignore those who rejected us in our own country as Tagaro based on our ethnicity. Those who are attacking our historical sites, churches and mosques. Kind of what you're talking about. Also, like eating like cattles and cows and like livestock for farmers throughout Tigray. Those are like
the most angry, the most peaceful people who do the most labor every day to bring like fruit to their home.
Right, and to know that our Eritrean troops know only what they're doing, and they're telling our people, oh, it's a mission that we are sent to do. We have no choice, because if they are not following the mission, the order from Isaias Afwerki and the generals who are determined to eradicate Tagaru, they themselves are actually facing like death. And that to me is like, how cold, how heartless does a person has to be for Ethiopia? On the other hand, by the way, they're struggling now. They can't even get Eritrean troops out of Tigray, because now Eritrean troops are telling the federal troops in Tigray, hey, we help you to get to Mekelle. Without us, you will never get anywhere. So that you're not telling us what to do. I mean, internally now, you have an Eritrean troops and the Amhara and the federal troops fighting among each other, basically saying you don't get to tell us what to do now. So talk about the mess that Abiy Ahmed has created.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If I could interject a little bit, just with the International Criminal Court aspect in the R2P, the right to protect the UN mission. I want to make sure that we understand what that means, but also what it means to inspire social change and political will within our movements. So if everybody who has access, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's still freezing you up, but your voice is coming out okay, but your face is kind of mostly frozen up. It's okay.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
So I just want to, I know that our time is limited and we're having some difficulties, especially on my face, it seems like. So I just want to direct everybody to Linktree dash I stand with Tigray. This is going to be the best resource for us right now at this point, how we can do individual activism, how we can join in collective activism, and how we can point to our friends and family who are Americans who may not even know where Tigray is in Ethiopia, or anybody, basically anybody action items. So head over to the top on the list, Omna Tigray. There you're going to find basically a landing page spelling it out for you. The mission, the victims of war, so on and so forth. The second down, you will see Stand with Tigray tweet templates. So what we're facilitating now is the 100 days of Biden's administration. And what we really want him to cue on is like to uphold our democratic our institutions, right? Like, we want to make sure the world knows that America is against atrocities on a human rights level. And for the last 4 years, we have not been able to like say that. We haven't, because we've had so many issues in our own country on a racial level. So yeah, I just want to reiterate, anybody who is willing to help and looking to help, Linktree dash I stand with Tigray. You will find a number of action items there where you can be involved in. And then new media, social change is also my Instagram profile, as well as my URL.
Very good.
Like that real quick before there's any more delays or anything like that. And I hope this has been a fruitful conversation. I'm sorry. I don't know if this has been particularly fruitful for the viewers, but I'm so happy to share this space with you. I really, really am. Thank you for inviting me. And
Absolutely, yeah. I'm sorry that we're having the audio difficulty, but it's been really fruitful and helpful. A lot of people actually, in fact, I've seen a few people asking you to repeat that again because I don't think they wrote it down. So I'm gonna give you an opportunity.
I'll repeat anything. Just let me know. Let me know how I can help.
Yep. So if you can, in your closing statement, if you could just say it one more time, that way the folks who might not got it, they'll get it. And then if you could, when we're done, you can message me, and then I'm going to air it again tonight so I can talk about it again tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so my closing statement was just directing folks on to how we can stay in a community, how we can help our efforts back home. So direct these resources to yourselves, your family, to your friends. Anybody can do this. So it's Linktree dash I stand with Tigray. And there you will find, so the first, we have Omna Tigray, Advocacy and Resources. There you will find mission statements, what has been going on, kind of like the historical background. It's an international group devoted to that. And then second down, you'll find Stand with Tigray tweet templates. This is super easy. When you're joining our campaign, all you have to do is literally click the box, scroll down, and then you'll see the date. You just search for the date. Twitter campaigns, the date, and then you can press tweet if you're signed in to either your web browser or the Twitter app. It'll take you exactly there. Or you can just copy and paste. All you have to do is copy and paste, post, copy and paste, post, copy and paste, post. That's all we're asking you to do. It's just a way to leverage our voice to make sure that our narratives are being fully represented. Third down, you'll see I Stand with Tigray. That has a lot of information on that. Phone banking. This is what would be so helpful for anybody to get involved. If you have any friend at all interested in being involved in the efforts, this is what they need to do. It's pre-scripted, right? So they will call their representatives and they will give and then we have a whole script laid out for you. And it's just basically asking, displaying like what do we want for Tigray and what are the issues. So it's hardly any work that you have to do. Just click the button and you'll see there's many buttons. There's many ways to get involved. So don't be discouraged. You don't have to be Tigray white. You don't have to be from Tigray. You don't have to be anything to stand up for human rights. You can join us. You can be whoever you are. Just stand for human rights. This matters. This is ancient history. This is UNESCO sites. People should care about this, for so many reasons. So there's so many ways to get involved. I just hope that Americans really understand that the threats to democracy are not just at home. It's all over the world. And we have an obligation. We have a stern obligation and a responsibility to uphold our institutions here. So I hope that we continue to do that.
Absolutely. And at the end, you said it, this is all about humanity. Forget about the politic of it, but think about from humanitarian perspective. That's what we're talking about. 4.6 million people in Tigray, of which about 2.5 million are children in needs of basic things such as water and food and clothing. Just medicine. That is just a human right. We can have political differences. Even you and I can have different views and whatnot, but that should not be the focus here. Is there is genocide happening in Tigray. There are people in desperate needs of help. We need the UN to step in to help the people who do not deserve to be displaced, to be massacred. The world needs to pay attention more. The war currently that's happening in Tigray should not be waged against civilians. And I wish that we had a better audio communication, but I'm going to have to bring you back another time because I had a few other topics that I was going to cover with the audio quality. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to end it here, but I do want you so typically, before I go on my own closing statement, I typically would say it in English and Tigrinya. So if you would like to say anything to the diaspora, but also to Tagaros back at home in English, Tigrinya, if you want to say anything that you want to say, you are welcome to do a final point.
Thank you. I do have, wow, I don't even know if this is something that I was really, I'm just leave it at this. Just be hopeful. Be hopeful for our people. Be hopeful. Do not lose any grain of morale. Do not let anybody tell you that you do not have a right to speak out against the ugliness that is happening. Don't be gaslit. Just don't let any ugliness come to you. Now is the time to embrace truth and love, and I wish healing for all of our people. Yeah, and I hope that I can continue to serve our people the best. That's what I'm here to do. I'm not here to do anything other than make sure that our traditions survive on. I love you all. I love my people so much. I love all of us so much. I want us all to prosper and not to be in this hurt anymore. So reach out to me.
And you're not freezing up anymore.
Am I good?
You're not freezing up anymore.
Okay. Well, I love you all. That's basically all I'm saying. I'm sorry we had so many technical difficulties.
That's all right. That's all right. We got the point across.
But I love you all so much. Tigray. I would do my little Ashenda poem right now that I had, but I don't want to take up too much. That'll be a different time. I have a lot of poems that I want to display for.
Go ahead.
Should I? Do you guys want to hear my Ashenda poem?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, let me find it. Hold on. Okay. I was so excited to share this with everybody.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
It was my first one.
I'm gonna play the music while you find it.
This is the best day of my life. Okay.
When you're ready, let me know.
Okay. Wait, one second. Don't leave.
Ready to go?
Hold on, one second.
You're good. We'll keep them entertained.
All the way back down to August. Okay.
That's okay.
It's downloading, I swear. It's
Gotcha. You're good. I mean, I think
it could be for another time too, but it was a really beautiful Ashenda poem to all my
that's why I wanna
sisters.
That's why I want to make sure that you can get it in.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Look for it, and then we'll entertain them with another music.
I love it, people, so much.
You're good. Let me know when you're ready. You're good. They're actually liking the music. Because it's talking about how they've been told that, it's not your land. I mean, I can't exactly translate exact from word to word, but the point he's making is that they've been warned that Tigray land is for Tagada, not for the invaders.
Amen. I found my brothers. Okay, so this is my brother's rendition of the poem. I had him speak it out to me beforehand so I could get the pronunciation right. I'm having trouble locating my poem where I did the whole recording in front of the grass. But this is my brother's. This is what I wanted to say.
So
to my
we'll let you do your brother today, and then we'll have you come back maybe in the next day or two, and then do yours for sure. We can do a short segment.
Yes, mine it'll be a performance. I'll
Or
do
you
a
might have to join us later tonight. We'll talk
but
after the show.
But this is my brother's voice on my. He translated my poem for me. Ashenda.
Izi natna gizi iyo. Izi zukulo dekanstio shim iyo. Kullen.
Can you hear?
Yeah, it's a little bit low, but that match.
Atankiren allaba. Walashenda. كلخن دكاشندا افتوكن إيه وانا شندا أنا ون كماخن إيه أشندا ناتنا بحلنا إيو ولا شندا حماق نجر أي بس عن إيو. That's it. Thank you so much.
That was my brother's little riff. Next time, I'm going to come well performed with my Tigrinya poems. I love to write poetry, so I will be much better next time.
You're always welcome. You always, this. I mean, so just so you know, like, and the audience understands that the purpose we came up with this English broadcasting is that I was saying earlier that we want to make sure that we cater like our younger generation, but also we're not shy of speaking Tigrinya. We're proud who we are.
Mm-hmm.
We will continue to listen to our music, to speak obviously Tigrinya, and when when we have many young generation who fully understands it. I mean, even the music, like anyone whose parents are origin from Tigray haven't been at a Tigray festival. I mean, we've seen it all. We understand it. We don't have to be told. And I think I'm inspired with the movement. To be honest with you, what I appreciate from our veterans and those who have been community leaders and have been fighters as well in the diaspora is that their humbleness to see and encourage us to work together. I've spoken to many of them where like, you know how culturally we don't want to step in and like, you know, and make them feel like we are disrespecting them. But now it's like they're just like, no, here's a torch. We're gonna like stand next to you. We're gonna help you when you need us. But this is your time. This is you. You are the, you know, generation to take over. And you know, for me and for many of us, it is blessing. Actually, to be honest with you, I don't wish this on anybody, but actually this war has galvanized young Tagaro in the diaspora. You notice like Facebook and social media, how many like Tigray flag, how many like, you know, Tigrinya, even like things that are like, I've in my Facebook, if you go back and look,
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. I've never seen this many like Tagaro, like just like young Tagaro born in America,
It's
Canada.
amazing. Honestly, I have sisters in Australia. I got sisters in Berlin, brothers in Denmark. Like we all have so much family. Like this, you're exactly what you said. This is a really, it's a blessing in disguise because we're more communicative and we're more collaborative than ever.
That's right. That's right. So we're going to continue to spread the love for our
like
young Tagaro.
Like
and we're going to
best friends for these last 2 months.
Yep. Sorry. We had a little audio delay, so I talked over you. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But now your audio is okay. So it's been a really amazing discussion. If you want to repeat that link that you were talking about earlier, you're no longer freezing up. So actually, that will be very helpful for a lot of people who might have not got it earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. So everybody who's watching, the best thing you can do right now, if anybody's asking you how to help, you're explaining the situation in Tigray, the best thing you can do is direct them to Linktree I stand with Tigray. And there you'll find a whole number of action items in terms of Omna Tigray, advocacy, and resource. This is going to be it's somewhat newer, basically platform that is internationalized and it has a lot of different historical content to it, but it's a lot of different collaborative Tagaro working on that site. And also second down, we have Stand with Tigray tweet templates. This is going to be imperative for all of us, especially within the current marketing expectations that we have for our collective. So Biden's 100 days, we have this week-long campaign where you can join in, and it's as easy as clicking a button. All you have to do is click buttons, set up a Twitter account, and it has the pre-made text in for you. You can also copy and paste if there's any technical difficulties. Everything on the site is already laid out for you. So we really, really need anybody willing to help out, to raise your voice on those platforms, because that is a great way to do it. And then I Stand with Tigray, Google Drive, third one down, that'll be the informational side, right? So you can get an introspective look on the last 2 years. What has led to this point in terms of the Cold War that has been stocked up? If you're looking at it from that perspective, sure, we can go up 27, 50, 100 years back. And then also the phone banking guide, that's really, really important because that gives you the access and the know-how to speak with elected officials, right? So not only do you have their numbers, their names, and their direct lines, but you have a written out script on what to say to them. What are the demands? What are we expecting from our elected officials? And this R2P, the ICC campaign, what can we actually expect? So there you'll find really great guidelines to do that as well. Petitions, GoFundMes, CDA GoFundMes, professional help, so that is number one going to be, I think there's loading. That is number one going to be like the best source to find. It says we're having trouble connecting. This is often cuts.
You're back on now. Oops. So I think we'll bring her back, but connectivity, I apologize, guys. We appreciate you joining us today. Obviously, we had a lot to cover, but given the audio connectivity, I'm gonna invite Abby again There we go. You're back.
Hi
There we go.
there. Where did we leave off at?
I just let them know that I appreciated that we have an audio connectivity issue, but that you'll be invited again soon, and you just showed up right there.
Okay, great. So what is the last thing I said?
So about the campaign, like, you know, you just finished off like re-explaining basically that how they need to follow through and write their like representatives and whatnot. So everything that you cover is how to stay like connected, how to stay engaged in their communities and our communities wherever we are.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure that I got some of that in. I wasn't sure where I cut off at. So yeah, I just want to reiterate Linktree-I stand with Tigray. There you'll find our whole, and I encourage you to copy and paste that too and put it in your bio, your Instagram, your Twitter, your Facebook, anything to direct people. Anytime you have a conversation with somebody at Starbucks or wherever you're out in America, just take that opportunity to be like, hey, by the way, I know that a lot is going on right now, but I'd really appreciate it if you are informed about X, Y, and Z happening in Tigray, Ethiopia. And if you approach it that way, I promise you, people will engage, whether or not you have a mask on your face. If you can approach it in a way that is like almost embracive, just be like, hi, I don't know you, but this is what's happening. I would really care a lot if you know about this. The worst they can do is put your flyer on the ground or not really care at all. But also, the best thing that can happen is like somebody actually does care and they have a connection somewhere that you can even predict. So don't stop losing hope, and don't stop reaching for individuals that could help us.
And we are just broadcasting, just so everyone knows, this is not limited to the US. So those of you around the globe who are following us, who follow Cyber Power of Tigray on YouTube and Facebook, this information that Abby is discussing about sharing, please do the same thing no matter what part of the world that you are at. We are proud of you. We are proud of the young Tagaru who are rising stars of tomorrow. Tigray has a bright future ahead of us. I cannot emphasize enough as Tigrawi. So I am going to once again give Abby one more chance to do a anything that is encouraging that you've been doing to those who can do Twitters and all these social platforms. But we have also many, including the diaspora, who quite don't have the ability and the means to do the social media and whatnot. But the encouragement that we need, particularly those in Ethiopia and throughout Addis Ababa and other regions who are suffering on the hands of a dictator regime. Would you like to say anything for them in support, and those in Sudan and wherever they are displaced and going through difficulties?
Right. Yeah. All I can really say to our displaced brothers and sisters, our family and friends, is that there's not a day that goes by that we do not think of you, that we're not with you. We're with you every moment, and we are detailing everything that is happening. We're writing everything down, and we're taking every single aspect of Western education in our back pocket to really to propel our people. Like I said in the beginning of this conversation, we had long-standing plans to build up Tigray, even more than it was, right? We've had plans to go back there and to do more. So trust in God before anything else. Trust in God, trust in God's plan, whatever faith you adhere to. I really want you and encourage you to get closer to God and understand what is truth, what is our moral compass, and to recalibrate and to figure out.
What about to those who, obviously we have various religions. I want to be respectful of everybody when we say God. So I want to make sure that they're not misunderstanding us. But aside from the faith, they feel hopeless. They feel defenseless.
Yeah.
And if they don't follow faith, what could they follow?
What can they follow? Well, that's a great question. And when I speak to faith, I try to be inclusive as possible and to acknowledge all faiths, right? Whether you're Muslim, whether you're Christian, whether you adhere to Judaism, whether you you're Buddhist, whether, like, I don't discriminate, and I make space for everybody who has the same values as me, like human beings, right? So that's what I say when I say God. I want to make space for everybody. And if faith is not your thing, then I just say, like, understand what indigenous rights mean, indigenous people, and how important they are to the world, to the planet, to life itself. And I hope that we can create community for everybody who resonates as Tigray. We've, like, in Clubhouse, we've been having so many different conversations in the diaspora, so I'm just like, it's coming to my mind. But yeah,
I'm throwing in there whatever people are commenting about by what they're saying to you. I don't know if you can see the screen.
She said, exactly, sweet. Thank you, love. Thank you. I don't know if she's older or not. I'm going to say Hafti. But thank you so much. I appreciate the support, and I hope that I'm coming from a place of love and the utmost respect for all of our elders and everybody who sacrificed for us to get to this point. And this is a continuation of our fight, and it's unfortunate, but just know there's so much that we can do together. Just stay united. Don't cut anybody out. We're in this together. If you're Tigray, you're Tigray. Like, just love on each other and figure out how to cope together, because we're all we have at this point. And don't exit anybody out. Just love on each other, do the best that you can, and regroup. I can't emphasize that enough. Take your time and regroup. Come back to the group and say, hey, where are we at? Figure out where you can help. Some younger men are so gung-ho to go back and fight, but are you really prepared for that? Figure out if that's the best space for you. Do you have tech knowledge? Do you have other ways that you can really facilitate us here? Because what we need is tech entrepreneurs. What we need is people programming in Silicon Valley. We don't need more fighters. We need different type of constituents on, and I don't want to speak too publicly about this because that's more strategic things that we can get into at a different time, but really figure out what is the best way to advocate for your people, whether it's translation. There's so many translation teams that we need. So whether you speak Amharic, you speak Tigrinya and English, you're so useful to us. You can help so many people. Whether you are a writer, you can consolidate media literacy. You have to know that as a journalist. So you have media literacy and digital literacy that a lot of people don't have. Utilize that. What else can you do? You can just be a comfort to your family. Say your mother this is her second, third time. Be there for her. Make coffee for her. Give love to her. Spend time with her. Hear her out. That is like so much. That's like generations what you could do for our women. Also, men specifically, speak out against the rape. Speak out against this pillaging, and like commit to like just stop all this patriarchal, like really harmful things that happen to our women and have been happening, whether it be domestic violence, whether it be rape, whether it be all of these things that are castrated on this just mechanism, on this hierarchy, I mean. So let's all be bold. Let's all be bold in trying to figure out where our activism lies and where we can create the most impact. Those are just a few suggestions, but not limited to.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, so I'm going to do a quick, both English and Tigrinya. So I appreciate, Abby, I appreciate you coming, and we'll do another set of a round to share it with our folks, our listeners, our viewers around the world. Thank you so much for joining us with Cyber Power of Tigray. This means a lot. Obviously, we are going to continue the fight. Today, January 16, 2021, is the first day of the campaign that we have started with Twitter. So please hop onto Twitter. Even if you don't feel tweeting, just hop on there, retweet any tweets that you see regarding Tigray genocide, Tigray, stop war on Tigray, and list of things that you'll find there. We will continue this until January 23rd. And Cindy, Australia, Seattle, Washington, and Minnesota are going to stay put in protesting on January 22nd, 2021, which is coming up pretty soon. Initially, that was going to be a worldwide protest that we had planned, but given what happened at the Capitol Hill last week, there's been intense security around the U.S. So therefore, our leadership in Washington, the Tigray community, who helps us to mobilize and organize around the globe, in consultation with the young and everyone else around the world, have agreed to postpone it. But a few of the cities, like I mentioned, Sydney, Australia, Seattle, Washington, and Minnesota have decided to stay as planned because they already had it planned too far into it. So they like to do it then. And then they're going to do another one the same time as going to be worldwide on January 28th. So if you're in Sydney, Australia or nearby, join them, please. If you are around Seattle, Washington, instead of Oregon, British Columbia, if you can join the Seattle March in Seattle, Washington, January 22nd, 10 a.m. I'm going to try to make it there. I'm, 6-7 hours away driving, so I'm going to see. But
please
if
do first and second also, and keep in mind, just stay up on the news, because there's also things speaking specifically to America. Stay up on the news, exactly what's happening at the capitals before you march out there, especially with your flags, because we do need to understand that, white supremacist ideology,
That's right. That's right. So with that,
it's what we are. So especially, let alone a communist flag, like that is like their recipe for, they hate it. So just be prepared, don't be fearful, but just be prepared that anything near the inauguration, that's what you'll meet. Those are the type of people that'll be outside the Capitol. So just
absolutely. So with that, for Tagars around the world, I know this has been very challenging. I know this has been the most difficult time in our lifetime, in our generation. Even though we have seen war in the past, I have never experienced this magnitude of massacre, direct attack on civilians. Incidents do happen, but this is no incident. This is no mistake. Abiy Ahmed of Ethiopia, who is an elected leader, Isaias Afwerki of Eritrea, who is a dictator, have unleashed every weapon they have at their disposal. They have gone after people who are in their 90s. A person who was a fighter and who was blind was murdered and used as a propaganda machine. As we speak, the Ethiopian Federal Police and the military are planning in people's homes weapons, money. Then they'll bring the media for fake documentary, to make it look like these are Tagar thieves, Tagar leaders and whatnot, and insinuating they stole money, they had weapons in their home, to use that against them. That's what happened in the 60s when the FBI went after the Black Panther Party in the United States of America. That was in the 60s, in the 50s and 60s. Today, this is happening, except it's worse than that. What's happening in Ethiopia today, in the Tigray region of Ethiopia today, should never happen. It is ridiculous that 73 days later, we are still talking about it. So I'm going to switch to Tigray now. And to my Tigrinya speaking folks around the world, Ayona. Nahna Tagaru, Ainin Berkahanina. Salatina, Ifukuru, Zarawai Khodiyam. Malisam Gil Malhasam Yamzanaxo. Malisam, Maria Tigray, Moto Imkwana Ifotuan. Hizim Tahon Hizi, Meda Tigray, Nuu, Bigdata, Nizazhazuam, Araktot Sawat, the Constio Hotana, the Defruan Zalo. Ertrayan Watader, Naitep Watader, Namhara, the Defora Zalo, the Constio Hotana, as you بحقاوي كما قرنا حين خمن فدي بحقاوي قرنا كنمل سعينا ولا أنا آتم حمانا قرن سرح زي كون دك أنسي أمحارا دك أنسي أرترا نتهم زقصوا وانزلوا زدفروا وانزلوا دك أنسي حواتنا تاريخ مورالنا استنكفوا وانزلوا ንትግራይ ህዝቢ ሞራሉ ከመይ ጌርና ኣውዲቕና ከም ዘሸነፍና ክንመስል ኢሉ መሽረፈት ኣብይ ኣሕመድ ዝገብሮ ዘሎ ጁንታ ዝብለና ዘሎ እቲ ጁንታ ማለት ትርጉሙ እንድሕር ተረዲኹም ኣሕዋት ጁንታ ማለት ኣብይ ኣሕመድ እዩ ጁንታ ማለት ኢሳያስ ኣፈወርቂ እዩ ጁንታ ማለት ናይ ኢሳያስ ኣፈወርቅና ናይ ኣብይ ኣሕመድ ኮራኾር ማለት ብዘይ መራሒ ሓንቲ ነገር ዘይፈልጥ እዩ ስለዚሁ ንሕና ተጋሩ ካብ ቀደምና ካብ ኣያታትና ዝሓለፈና ሓደራ እንታይ ኣሎ ሓደ ተጋዳላይ ክስዋዕ ከሎ ካሊእ ተጋዳላይ እዩ ዝትካእ ሓደ ሓላፊ ክቅተል እንተሎ ክመውት እንተሎ ክስዋዕ እንከሎ ንተሰዊኡ ብሓቂ ካሊእ ሓላፊ ካሊእ ሓለቃ እዩ ዝመፅእ እዞም ዝርሸኑ ዘለዉ ኣሕዋትና ከም እንስይ መስፍን ካልኦትም ሕማቕ ነገር ተሰሪሑ ዝኒሄ ኣብይ ኣሕመድ ገይርዋ ዝኒሄ ነገር ፅባሕ ንጎኻ ናቱ ታራ ከም ትኸውን ክትርስዕዎ ኣይብልኩምን መንነትና ክትርስዑ የብልኩምን ኣይንርስዕና ድማ ኣየኹም ኣይተሓሩን የመና ሓሪና ሕራንና ግን ኣብ ስራሕ ነውዕሎ ሒዚ ንገብሮ ዘለና ስራሕ ፅባሕ ንጎ ድማ ንህዝብና ከመይ ጌርና ከም ንሕግዝ ንሃገርና ከመይ ጌርና ከም ነማዕብል ትግራይ ድማ ድሕሪ ሒዚ ዓወታ ሒዛ መሬታ ብህዝቢ ትግራይ ናይ ተጋሩ መራሕቲ ባዕልና ዓርሲ ባዓርስና ተማያይጥና ተኸባቢርና ንትግራይ ነመሓድራ ንትግራይ ንውዕለላ ንዕንድረላ ንሓድረላ ንውዕለላ ምስ ኣሕዋትና ደቂ ኣንስትዮን ደቂ ተባዕትዮን ተሓቋቂፍና ንነብረሉ ሃገር ናይ ተጋሩ ሃገር እዩ ካሊእ ትርጉም የብሉን ኣምሓራ ብዝመፀ ይምፃእ ብስነ ስርዓት ሰላም ዝመፀና ኣምሓራ እንተድዩ ብሰላም ክንቅበል ንኽእል ኢና ብሓይሊ ክመፅእ ደፍእ ዝግል ግን ጋና እንተይረገፃተሎ መሬት ሓሞክሽቲ ኢና ንገብሮ ኤርትራውያን እስካብ ሎሚ ትገብርዎ ዘለኹም እናመፃኹም ሰላማዊ ሰልፊ ትሕግዙና ዘለኹም ትፅሕፍዎ ዘለኹም ትዛረብዎ ዘለኹም የኽእኒየልና ኣንቱም ሓደ ሓደ መድሕርሕርትዮም ኤርትራውያን ናይ ኢሳያስ ኣፈወርቂ ኣንበገነን ትከታተሉ ኮራኹር ውፁ ካብኡ ሓቅነት ልብኹም ጠይቁ ጭንቅላትኩም ፅርየትኩም ኣፃርዩ ካብ 100,000 ንላዕሊ ትግራዋይ ኣብ ኤርትራዋይ ኣብ ትግራይ ዝቕመጥ ነበረ ስደተኛ ሒዚ ዝባሳበስ ዘሎ ሒዚ ዝቕተል ዘሎ ደቂ ኣንስትዮ ኤርትራ እውን ይድፈራ እየን ዘለዋ ኣብ ትግራይ ዝኩሉ ኤርትራውያን መፂኦም ትፈልጥዎኹም ባዕልኹም ክንደይ ገንዘብ እናሰደድኩም መዓት ኤርትራውያን ኣብ ትግራይ ዝነበሩ ብሰላም ነይሮም ምሳና ጎኒ ጎንና ብመውስቦ እንተይቀረየት ሓዊስና ብሰላም ዝነበሩ ኤርትራውያን ካብ 100,000 ንላዕሊ ስደተኛታት ስደተኛ ዘይኮኑ እንደገና ብሰላማዊ ኮይኖም ኣብ ትግራይ ሙሉእ ዝነበሩ ብሰላም ይባሳወስ እዮም ዘለዉ ብመን ብኢሳያስ እና ብናቱ ኮራኹር ናይ ኤርትራ ወታደር ኣብ ትግራይ ዝኒሄ ናይ ኤርትራ ወታደር ኣይኮነን ናይ ኢሳያስ ወታደር እዩ እዚኡ ክትፈላለዩ ኣለኩም ስለዚ ኮራኹር ዘለኹም ኤርትራውያን ዝብለኩም ዘለኹ ካብ ልብኹም ዘይነፀረርኩም ንኢሳያስ ትከታተሉ ኮራኹር ኢኹም ዘይነቃሕኩም ኢኹም ተይነቃሕኩም እንድሕር ክትመት ኮይንኩም ብዘለኹም መፅለፉ ገደል ናይ ብሓቅነት እንድሕር ክብረሉ ኢኩም ንህዝቢ ግን ህዝቢ ትግራይን ህዝቢ ኤርትራን ክሳቀ እንተሎ ንሃትኩም እዚ ይሳቀ ዘሎ እዚ ልቢ ተልኢኩም እዚ ሓቅነት ተልኢኩም ኤርትራውያን ግን ቶም ሓቂ ዘለኩም የቀኒየልና ኢለለኹ እየ ዘይ ንስሓትና ሓቅነት ዘይትፈልጡ ኤርትራውያን ግን መንነትኩም ዝረሳዕኹም ኢኹም
በጃሓ ህዝብ ትግራይ ሃግዞም
That's right ሓግዝዎም ህዝቢ ትግራይ ማለት እያ ስለዚ ይሕገዝ መለ እዩ ኤርትራውያን መዓት እዮም ዝነበሩ ትግራይ ቀልድኻ ይመስለና መዓት ህዝቢ ኤርትራ ትግራይ ኮይኑ መንግስቲ ኤርትራ ዘይድግፎ ምዃኑ ነቲ ወታደር ድማ ንሃቲ ወታደር ከም ዘይምዃኑ ወሲኑ ምስ ህዝቢ ትግራይ ተሳቲፉ ኣብ ጎኒ እዩ ዘሎ ስለዚሁ ኣብ ዳያስፖራ ዘለኹም ኤርትራውያን ድማ መዓት ቤተሰብ መዓት ዘመዳት ዝነበርኩም ኣብ ትግራይ ትፈልጥዎ ኢኹም ባዕልኹም እቶም ዝዛረበኩም ዘለኹም ግን ተወሰኑ እና ኣየና ኣብ ኣዲስ ኣበባ ዘለኹም ተጋሩ ተሳቀዩ ዘለኹም ኣየኹም ክወግሑ ይፅባሕ ንኮ እቶም ዘሳቂኹም ዘለኹ ግን መዝገብ ንሓስኩም ፅንሑ መን ከም ዝኾኑ እናፈለጥኩሞም ፅንሑ ፅሒፍኩም ኣይተሓዙ ኣብ ጭንቅላትኩም ተኸታተልዎ መን እዩ ዝብደል ዘሎ መን እዩ በዳሊ ፅባሕ ንግሆ ንጣየቀሉ ግዜ ክመፅእ ይሕዋት ኣየኹም ንስኻትኩም ሞራል ትቁረፁ ኣለና ኢና ኣብ ጎንኹም ተሰሊፍና ኣብ ዳያስፖራ ዝነና ተጋሩ ኣብ ዓለም ሙሉእ ኣብ ጎንኹም ኢና ኣየኹም እስካብ ቀፃሊ ግዜ ንራኸብ ብሩኽ መዓልቲ ብሩኽ ለይቲ ሰዓት 9 ብናይ ዌስት ኮስት ታይም ድማ ክንምለስ ኢና እስካብ ሽዑ ንራኸብ ድሓን ኩን ኣሕዋት የቀኒየለይ ኣቢ thank you ዝሓተይ የቀኒየለይ
I love you all
thank you so we're going to do a little bit my final Tigrinya music is going to be hopefully briefly but I got to play this
Play someone now. Hold on.
Ciao everyone, Kamar Rahab, Dahan Wadu, Dahan Hadar, Zalahum Mahajarat, Dahan Kuno, Yahum Natna, Alana Ina Wonukun, Alana, Ayahum, Dagan Tigray, Nawatina.